Our first speaker is Saurabh Sharma, VP of Big Data, CRM, and CMI at Samsung Electronics. He's going to talk to you all about having the right MarTech components to make sure that you can master one-to-one personalization. So without further ado, let's please welcome him.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Saurabh Sharma, Vice President at Samsung. I have my colleague Todd here. Together with a great team, we manage quite a few things at Samsung, starting with data, our MarTech platform, CRM, and CMI. So, oops. That went earlier than planned, all right. So I'll be talking about how we leverage all the tech that we have, all the data that we have to drive hyper-personalization. I think everyone talks about personalization, but how do you really get there? I'll speak a little bit about our journey and what's worked for us. I'll break the talk in basically 3 parts. First, I think most of you are probably aware about Samsung as a brand, but I'll start by talking as a practitioner, as a marketeer. What is the scope that we have to deal with? What's the complexity that we have to deal with? Perhaps that'll resonate with many of you in your own ways. Then I'll talk about the stack itself, not getting into the technical details, but what's the concept that has worked for us? And then finally, how has Movable Link helped us in that journey as we've gone from one stage to the other? All right. So to start with, one of the biggest challenges, we have a pretty wide product portfolio. For a single brand, it really spreads quite across. So consumers use our products at home for entertainment. It's used for productivity in offices, at workplaces. Our products are also used outdoors for health and fitness tracking. But if you go further up, there are major product categories that we have, starting with phones, tablets, televisions, sound systems, but then we also have a pretty big suite of products in home, what we call digital appliances, from refrigerators, washer dryers, vacuum, and so on. Not only is that breadth pretty broad, even in each of those categories, there's a fair degree of complexity, because when you talk about personalization, you just don't want to sell any product to anyone, right? So let's take a couple examples. Mobile to start with. So our top-of-line Galaxy Fold phone comes at about an $1,800 price tag. Then we have the same foldable version in a different way called Flip. Then we have our Galaxy Ultra series, base series, but then we also have our entry-level phones at Galaxy A. So there's a pretty broad spectrum even in one of those verticals, right? Likewise also for televisions, our next big category, where we have, QLED or OLED, that's latest technology out there, but we also have more affordable Crystal TV brands. Likewise on refrigerators, there's something that we're very proud of in terms of customization is our Bespoke series. So for a while, appliances really came in 2 colors, maybe 3. It was white, stainless steel, or some version of another stainless steel. So we've added a lot more color to your house in terms of our appliances. So that's great from a product, but then also from a marketing perspective, you have another spectrum of variety that you have to deal with. And these products spread also in terms of pricing, right? So cheapest product would be about $150 buds, but then we also have a product that's $150,000. That's not a typo, it's $150,000. There's a micro LED television that's custom made for a house that does cost $150,000. And there are products that people would refresh, let's say, on an annual basis, or some that they would not look to refresh over a 10-year basis. So again, we're trying to deal with a pretty broad spectrum of product, price, and life cycle. Next, let's move on to people, customers. Who do we sell it to, right? So over 70% of the households in the US have at least one Samsung product, and about 25% have more than 3. So that just tells you the scale or scope of what we have to deal with. And customers come across the age spectrum for us. So all the way from kids who are using our tabs or televisions, of course under parent supervision, to Gen Z, to younger millennials, much older people. So you have this whole spectrum, again, from a marketeer's perspective. The reason why we are forced to go towards personalization and hyper-personalization is that you cannot talk to such a broad spectrum in that same manner. The other elements, so we've spoken about a product, we've spoken about our customers. Third is, as a marketeer, its next thing is about offer and promotions. What are we really promoting, right? So let's take two categories as an example, our two marquee products. So that's Galaxy S24 Plus. So if we have to promote that one particular phone, what are all the variants in terms of offers and promotions, right? So by the time customer has decided on the brand, the product, and they've come up to say, okay, this is what it is, and if we have that signal, there's still more variants to go into. So for a phone, the first thing would be trade-in. It's pretty popular. You trade in your old device to get a really good value. Depending on how old your device is, what the condition is, what brand is, the value changes quite a lot. Next is, what carrier are you on? There are various offers in terms of your plans and benefits that come along with it. Next is, we have a wide range of ecosystem products. So they're bundle offers. You get a bud, you get a watch, you get tabs. And how do you pay for it? Do you pay all at once? Do you pay every month? So the reason I'm telling you all of this is not even getting into the product specifics, but then when we have to promote, so we've zeroed down from a broad variety to one product, but even within that, we have a lot more variables to play around with. Same thing for another category. By the way, those of you who are not aware, that piece of art is a piece of art. That's our Frame TV. It's brilliant. If you guys don't know, you should check it out. The one next, where the lady is putting on the wall, that's also tech. So it looks like a frame, but that's a music frame. So we've recently launched that where in order to have good audio systems in the house, you don't have to compromise on the aesthetics. So it's yet another frame with speakers built behind. But that's not the main point. So Frame TV again. So what are the variables there? You said, man, I've decided on the size and let's go on with it. No. What's the bezel that you would want? What kind of audio that you want to pair with it? Is it a sound bar? Is it a full home theater system? Important, where do you want to install it? Is it table mounted? Is it wall mounted? Do you want white glove service? And then finally, same thing on pricing, right? So essentially, if you just take a step back, what this presents to us as marketeers is a really complex matrix of products, offers, customers that we have to deal with, right? So that's our starting space. So for us, personalization has been a journey, and I'm sure it's going to be same for many of you. It's not a flip of a switch that you go from one stage to the other. It's really the mindset that you go from one to the other. Most people would start with macro segments. Last few years, we've been dabbling a lot more into micro segments, and just to drive that point home, it's about thinking from your data signal in terms of different vectors. You have personas, you have products, you have interest, you have categories that you have. So all of those put together will then take, let's say, a 5-6 segment for a typical campaign to anywhere from 20 to 50, right? So that again boosts a lot of variables that we have to deal with. But at the end, our goal is to get to that individual customer. How do we then send an outreach, a marketing outreach, email or otherwise, that is really specific to you as an individual? So that's really the goal. We're in that journey itself. So again, not getting into the details of what the MarTech stack looks like, let's break it down into key components and maybe some suggestions of what's worked well for us. Starts with data. You've heard that all along. So customer profile is an important one, but maybe one suggestion is don't get bogged down by creating a data lake that has everything under the sky. There are priorities to it, so any kind of direct customer input, that's gold standard. Anything that is a customer interaction, that comes next. Then only you go to building propensity models to fill up your gaps, right? So that's the structure that you'd go ahead and create a profile. But that's your cornerstone. That is the starting point. Segmentation, like we've discussed, many ways to look at it. Again, 2 pointers there would be most products would start with some kind of market research and some segmentation that works. That's a great starting point. But there's also an element of experimentation. So you should allow for the system to tell you green shoots. Quite often, there are smaller groups that start doing very well or not doing very well. They may not have a name, but if you observe them, that they come up as really your differentiators, so to speak. Then, you could have as many segments as you want. I come from the data background as such, and we could do 2,000 segments for one single campaign. But it's worthless if the content is just the same, right? And so really it's important. You cannot have, ideally you would want custom creative for every segment, but that's not feasible. You need an army of people, you need a lot more money. So essentially you prioritize your primary segments and make sure there's some customization that happened there. And then you take levers of that and say, okay, I've invested the time in these variants, how can I then explore them and get to a broader scale? The next piece is equally important, is multi-channel deployment, right? Quite often, channels have become very siloed, so you're an email channel, SMS channel, and so on. It's really important to think broad across multiple categories. And the last part, equally important, is how you take that learnings, not just reporting, but insights, and push it back into each of these categories, because it really influences it all. And maybe the last thought there is, it's important to see dashboard and analytics, but at Samsung, we are hardwired to understand the why behind the numbers. So if it's a great number and we don't know why it went up, that's not good enough. The biggest challenge here is the content, and I'll talk to it in a bit, how MI, Movable Link, has been helping us in that space. So how do we go about taking that mark stack data, and how do we operationalize it, right? So it starts with the data. So on the left side, whether it's customer information, either customer provided or derived. Second, in our case, our products also talk, right? They're connected products. So we understand what the product is and how long it's been used, whether it has error signals, and then third-party data. All of that then with that we identify a target. And this is what I go back to saying hyper-personalization. For each individual customer, we have an understanding of where are they in their product cycle, where are they in the journey, what products, what offers, what interest really works for them. So in this example, it's this individual, we've said among the product categories, it's Galaxy S24 Ultra, but Ultra also has a lot more features, and we're going to promote the gaming feature of that particular phone, and the offer is going to be a trade-in. So all of that is decided within our first-party data source, like it's all controlled internally. I would say there are companies who would also do this across each of the channels. I think a best practice is to do it at one place and then activate across channels, whether it's CRM for email, push, SMS, or paid media targeting, or site personalization. There's a high degree of personalization that we do on our site. When you come in, based on your clicks, again, we find the best product and the best offer for you to make your buying experience good. And then finally, how is MI helping us in that journey? So I'll give you 3 examples. There are quite a few, but these 3 ring a bell. So we are a product-first company. So our product launches are extremely important. All the good innovation is all launched over there. But it also brings about a challenge to say there are way too many options. So what you see on the left side here is an email that we sent for our S24 launch. Right on the top is the primary offer. So what I was telling you earlier, there are more than 100 different variants of what that offer could be. So depending on various factors. So that's again where MI helps us, where previously this was not possible. We could not create 100 variants where you would have different pricing. And now it gives us that flexibility. So whether you are upgrading from a Samsung device or joining the better world from the other side, we have specific pricing. So there's no ambiguity on what you'd want to pay for that particular phone. Equally important is if you're currently using a phone, you have to be in a cave not to have a phone these days. So how does our latest phone compare to the phone that you currently have? If we have that knowledge, then we do a side-by-side comparison at a feature level. And that's amazing for us because it drives the point home. There could be 20 different features, but I can prioritize the features that are important to you. Earlier I'd mentioned about gaming, right? So there as well, it's only because of MI we are able to look at all of those variations. A next example, we recently had a big launch of bringing in AI to our digital appliances. Not a buzzword, it actually works. There are really cool features for you to check out. But again, the challenge as a marketer at that time was we've launched many different products at the same time. But the email campaign that goes out has to be personalized. So with all of the first-party data, while we have a default version that covers the whole spectrum, we've then identified which specific product category we want to promote, and within that, what feature. So are you interested to buy a refrigerator or laundry or so on? So once again, the only way we could do that at the time of launch with all of these products is because of Movable Link. Not just the functionality, but also the fact that it gives us, from an efficiency perspective, in order to do it, some of these things may be possible manually, but it would take way too much effort, way too much fault. And then finally, we run our Samsung Discovery events. These are week-long events that happen typically at the end of every quarter. So these are the best offers, promos, deals that run through that quarter. And one of the key elements of that is a deal of the day. So every day there's something unique, and it only happens on that day. There's a little bit of buzz created, and there's FOMO, so that we push for that. Great from a marketing perspective, but damn, how do we manage that from an email point of view? Because I control when we send out that email, I have no clue when people open that. So again, an email that was sent out on Monday, the best offer was the phone, but that same email gets opened on a Tuesday, but now it's a television offer, right? So again, with MI, we're able to swap that content dynamically. Again, something that would not be possible without MI. Then finally, in terms of key learnings from our journey, like I said, it's been a journey for us. Maybe 3 things I would leave the audience with. When you think about tech stacks, we believe in modular tech stacks, right? So it's a fallacy to put a lot of tech before your use case. So the way I would think about it is identify your business needs, define them as functions, and then for each function, there could be a tool. Because this space is rapidly evolving. You'll always have new functions that need to come in. So a supply chain of MarTech that works today will not work tomorrow, right? So unless it's modular, you will not be able to move things around. And same thing for tools. There's something that is really hot today. It's literally a matter of quarters where no one talks about it anymore. So do you want to be stuck with a particular toolkit that does not help you well? And perhaps the last thought there is, for some companies, it might make sense to have everything under one roof, but our approach has been really modular to see, let's take the best in class, use it to our advantage in terms of what we want to drive, and that keeps us going. The next piece is very important, I would say, cross-channel activation. So I think many companies will deliver across those different marketing channels, but they're not coordinated. They are silos. You have your email channel that just works for email. Any optimization that happens comes back only in the email channel. I think that's a paradigm shift that we've had, where what I mentioned earlier, the determination happens internally, and each of the feedback kind of comes back, right? So therefore, if you think about the end customer, it's not about, am I running email marketing as a channel, or am I running SMS as a channel, or social media? The end goal should be the customer sees the same consistent messaging from the brand, right? And that can only happen if you think about multi-channel orchestration. The last piece, automation. It's great to think about personalization, hyper-personalization, and as much as we can do, it's just not possible without automation, right? So as you go about evaluating use cases, it's very important to understand, do I have the means to do that? So one of the first questions we would ask any vendor is, what's the degree of automation? How easily can we sync it with our processes, right? So that's really important, that because you have a modular stack, any new tool that comes in has to embed very well, right? So automation and syncing it back is equally important. Well, I think that's about it, and it's my first Think Summit here, and I love the energy. I love how it's very practical. So thank you to the Movable Link team, and thank you very much.